So it'll be great for people that kind of really want to get a little bit more of a classroom experience, I think, would be the right way. So we'll probably have a little bit of a class before we actually get on the limo. Then we'll still do the limo greatness. Then we'll still do a debrief at a local pub, and I think it'll just be...
And it'll be optional if you want to come for the class. So.
Yeah. But
you can come to
lots of value.
Yeah, come on, hang out with us. We're going to learn here in the morning. Then we'll go. It'll be like in class, and then we're going on a field trip kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and we'll still have all the private deals that we're usually hunting for monthly anyways.
Yeah. So I think that should be a ton of fun. In addition to that, we have our 2 cash flow to go meetups that are coming up really quickly. Yeah. So the first one's going to be in Windsor, and that's going to be in Windsor, January 24th. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties here. And it's still distracting. And then the week after, we have our one in GTA, location to be determined, but we're thinking it's going to be somewhere downtown, kind of University and King area. So I think definitely check out that if you're in the GTA area. And then in addition to that, we're planning to be at the Acre for rain.
Yeah.
So
that's new to everybody. So
yeah, so that's a brand new thing that
we will be at Acre 2 to 4 March, which is the Real Estate Investment Network big weekend they have. They have them across the country. This is the Toronto one, so annual big event. Brings out a lot of investors, a lot of landlords, a lot of new people, a lot of people that have 100 properties as well. So it's going to be a really good networking night.
And this is going to be my very first time attending one, so I'm really excited because compared to most of the other real estate investing networking type things that I've either gone to or heard about, everyone that's been to Acre, they always make it sound like it's actually a good one. Yeah. I guess it would be the best way to describe it.
It's less pitbull, if you're just hoping for music concert, and more talking about cash flow and numbers on properties. So.
And so, because last year in March or April, we went to, what was it called, like the Real Estate
Wealth Expo or something?
Yeah, Real Estate Wealth Expo. So I think that this will be a great experience, at least for myself, to get kind of a more professional, a little bit more professional real estate investors as well. So that'll be tons of fun. Yeah. Otherwise, if you guys are watching live right now, make sure you smash that like button. Jump into the comment section and say hi to Randomly Interesting, Adam Steeper, who's our moderator. Also, Mitt CPA, I think, will be in there, so say hi to Mitt.
And we're live on my Instagram right now, so hello, Instagram.
Yeah, what's up, Instagram?
Mitt, you saying hi?
Hey, how's it going?
Mitt's all the way in from Toronto, and he just bought some properties the other week here in London, so that was last month? Something like that.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so, that's, if you guys have been paying attention on my YouTube channel, I've been doing those random little 3-4 minute update videos on my current projects. Appreciate all the feedback I've been getting. It seems like you guys are loving them, so I'm going to keep cranking them out, but that's actually the property I'm partnered with Mitt on that we've been working on, so lots of cool stuff going on there.
And I was going to say, Kitchener, we're going to be coming to Kitchener in February. Haven't picked a date yet, so we'll put it in the groups for the Kitchener group, and you guys can help us pick it, and Matt and I will come down.
Yeah, and if you're interested about any of these meetup groups we've been talking about, or any of the other stuff we're doing, jump over to the Cash Flow Go meetup groups. There's one for all different kinds of cities, and or one for each different city throughout southwestern Ontario. So definitely find your local market and join that. And otherwise, we just kind of want to give a shout out to Graham Stephan. We know that a ton of my viewers, Jeff viewers, all found us through Graham, and so Graham's been a huge part of our YouTube success. And Graham actually, at some point this weekend, maybe even later tonight potentially, he's going to get 100,000 subs. He's going to get that silver play button.
That would be
exciting. Yeah, I'm pumped for him, and I know he's going to love it. Like, Graham's put in so much effort and so much work into his YouTube, so it's really awesome to see it paying off for him. And like, literally, he's going to be like 13 months, under 13 months of being a YouTuber and get that silver play button. That's extremely rare for anyone.
This is a person, Matt and I saw him in his ecosystem. He's planning out these videos.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like, oh, I just want to do a video, right?
Yeah.
He's constantly planning it. He's writing things down. He's got documents about it. Then he goes and shoots them. Then he edits. I saw him edit for like
he'll stay up like insanely late at night.
Yeah, he'll be up till 2 or 3 in the morning, shooting and editing.
So yeah. So he's definitely putting in the work. So it's one of those things, I can't think of who said it, but the harder I work, the luckier I get. Yeah. So Graham's definitely doubling down on the hard work to make sure he gets lucky. So just shout out to Graham for doing that. If you guys aren't subbed, definitely jump over and subscribe to Graham Stephan. Tons of great personal finance stuff as well as real estate content. So Otherwise, speaking about YouTube, Jeff kind of felt the pain of YouTube this week.
Yeah, so for any YouTubers out there, they just changed I had just reached what they asked me to reach in order to monetize so I could make $4 a year. And they changed it while I was in review across the entire board, so nothing to do with me. But YouTube just changed it. You needed 10,000 views, then you could get monetized. And this happened like right when I said, okay, I'm gonna start making YouTube. Like, then on like the next day that happens. So I get to 10,000, and then I'm in review, and it says within 1 week. And then it said, it's Christmas, blah, blah, blah. We're slow right now, by the end of January. And then all of a sudden, yesterday or 2 days ago, it comes out with, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time.
In the last year.
So the watch time one's very interesting. It's not views, it's watch time, 4,000 hours. So then I was like, way behind the 8 ball again. So I'm like, but Matt brought me back up. He's like, let's just
we're just gonna get
first quarter, let's do this.
Yeah.
I think I get the subs easier than the watch time. So let me know if you guys want to see paint drying for an hour on my renovation.
Who's willing to just have Jeff's channel just open in a separate browser, just playing in the background?
Real life renos.
If you have to, you can mute him and just have him play in the background. He just really wants that.
Play video games. Put me on the YouTube and then just play video games.
Make a playlist so they can stream all your videos in sequential order.
Huge. But yeah, so make sure you guys are jumping into the comment section. Ask us your real estate questions if you got any real estate questions. So far,
I got a few things too,
but let's get into it.
What were you gonna say so far?
I was just gonna say so far this year it's been a pretty hot market. Yeah. And I was just gonna talk about how
that's gonna get crazy. Yeah.
Like so today we kind of did our reconnaissance for the Weibel Limo Tour. So the Friday before we go out and do the Weibel Limo Tour, we like to view all the properties just so we can kind of get the kinks worked out, right? The idea is we don't want to be there trying to get the door open and find out we don't.
Yeah, and shout out to the London, Ontario realtors that helped me out. Like, you guys may think we're all enemies or something like that. There's a good amount of underground network that gets your properties sold because they call me because they know that I'll be able to bring a buyer and vice versa. And I joked with some of the good ones, good agents, if they're messaging me to get into a property at 2 a.m, they never will. But if they did and it was a certain guy, I would bend over backwards to get that guy in that property because I know he's asking for a reason and that. So when I say, hey, you got anything for my limo tour, they're bending over backwards to get you guys in as well. So it's pretty exciting. So there's a few people that get it, other people that just don't, right? But
yeah, and I think like the key takeaway from that is it's relationships, right? Build those relationships, and it takes time to build those relationships, but you can also destroy those relationships very fast. So that's why first of all, I'm always talking about networking. Networking is so valuable. It's part of the reason why we're starting these Cash Flow to Go meetup groups. That's why Jeff's in tonight, right? He's got to grind on the network later tonight.
Well, you never know. You're gonna meet interesting people. I have a black tie event to go to tonight. You never know. Maybe people are like, "Oh, I got a 17 plex that I'm thinking of selling." You never know.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard to predict. And honestly, even earlier this week, we try and say yes to most of the meetups or the meetings we get requested from us. There is a high volume of it. It's a good problem, a quality problem. But so actually earlier this week, we met up with a guy that's thinking about opening up a production company in Eastern Europe for social media influencers, and that was a fascinating conversation. And definitely a lot of interesting insights that we garnered from that.
Yeah.
So, and it was actually really good too. What was neat about it was we often get so caught up in the day-to-day of operating our Instagrams or our YouTube channels that it's really easy to forget about, like, why are you doing this? Or where are you going to be 5 years from now because you're doing this? And so it was a lot of fun to have them kind of ask us those critical questions.
And like almost like write out a timeline of what you're trying to accomplish online rather than just doing stuff online.
Unfortunately, you got to do both. You just got to be always doing and planning.
Well, that's the thing, because we were asked, like always, like, what's our plan or this and that.
Or when are you going to retire from YouTube was a question.
Yeah, when are you going to retire from YouTube? And there could be a time, but Matt had said he's going to adapt potentially at one point. Like, you might still be on it, but maybe you're showing the phase 2 or 3 when you're retired on the beach now, and you're phoning home about those rental properties, and like, how much of you guys would you still follow Matt and be like, I can't wait till I'm on the beach, maybe Matt's still answering questions about all the rental properties back at home. Right?
And like I think a good friend of ours, Peter, the Hungarian Experiment, you may know as on YouTube. That's what he's all about, is just documenting his journey, and that to me is what's so powerful about YouTube, and it's why I enjoy this medium so much, is because we do get these personal connections where when we go to a London on Fire meetup, which, side note, London on Fire meetup this Thursday coming up, so come to Palisade, 6:30 to 11, Palisade North. But it's like really awesome when someone approaches you and they're like, you don't know who I am, but I know you, and they just jump in. Like you don't have to go through like the basic bullshit of your normal meetups or your normal networking.
That's what we talked about with this guy. Like people would go up to Tim Ferriss, I'm sure. And then we're getting that at like a very smaller level.
A micro scale, but it's still an awesome scale. But yeah, so was there anything else you want to talk about, or should we jump into the comments?
Well, I had a few wins this week as well. But
okay, let's get into them.
I just rented out 2 of my units very quickly and through. Like I've done it many times because it's student turnover, right?
Yeah.
So like you do it mostly annually or
well, let's talk about maybe some student rental tips, since we're both in the midst of renting out our student rentals.
Right. So I didn't do this overnight, but it's very Tim Ferriss-y. Like what I try to do was like, and I do it a lot in real estate, just like keeping my time, not necessarily when they want to go do the showing. And it was so hard to do when you're brand new and you were so desperate.
You just want to make sure you get that tenant.
So I do have systems in place now. Now listen to this, guys, and I've told some of you guys personally. Okay, so I put the ad on the off-campus housing, $10, okay? I had 2 apartments available, but I knew if they just answered one, you just tell them about the other one, right?
Yeah.
You didn't do like one address and one address. It's in the same building.
Yeah.
And they're relatively the same. Okay, put it on, and slowly it says text me, because I'm so busy, I don't really want to talk to a 19-year-old.
Millennials don't call it.
No, they don't call it. So you put text, right? And they text you, and they say, hey, can I see it on this time on Sunday, blah, blah, blah. I already have a video tour of my of the apartment.
Yeah, this is very smart.
What you guys can do, even if you create a YouTube channel, you don't even have to make it go public. You can have it unlisted.
Yeah, and just
do the video. You don't have to talk. I talk, just being like, okay, so this is how you're gonna come into the house. This is the living room. This is where you're gonna cook. Okay, here's the laundry facilities. So you guys don't even have to leave. You're close to downtown. Blah blah blah. Da, da, da. They've already. It's. I'm sure you have a professional company come in and do some virtual tour and all that. But like quickly on your iPhone, upload it to YouTube, put it unlisted. So when I get that text, they're sitting in class at the university and they go, hey, there's this one. They send it over to me, or they text me. I send them, hey, can you watch this link? And if you like it, let me know. All right, so now I'm not wasting my time, because if they do get back to me, and what they'll do, it'll be, so if there's 3 people and like you have a lot of 5s, it's usually like there's one guy or girl that reaches out.
Yeah.
Okay, I call him the captain, right? And because they're the one that usually is the one that's in charge of it all. And send him that guy the link. He sends it to his buddies or the girls, whatever, and then they can send it to their parents back home.
Yeah, which is huge, because often with student rentals you find you book a set of viewings, one person doesn't show up for the viewing first of all, so you've just shown it to maybe 2/3 or 4/5 of the group. But then you book a second viewing where everyone gets to view it, but then you gotta book another viewing for everyone's parents to approve, where this really cuts out a lot of that back and forth.
It just gives the parents a little bit, they sign off a lot quicker because they're not as concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, so then send them the link. All right, now they want to go do a physical showing. It's usually just a confirmation at this point. Okay, so like quickly go in and they say, maybe they tell you right on the spot they want it. If not, when I leave, I just say, okay, well, text me if you want it. Text me your email address and I'll send you my application. Usually they go have a coffee, whatever. Then a couple hours later, you get the text like, hey Jeff, we'd love to rent the apartment, right? And I say, okay, send me your email address, and then send me the email address. I already have a PDF form, and I think I saw Matt Geertz making like an online one.
And I think he used Polio, or Podium, or something like that.
So there's guys out there right now, we can give you the link, that are creating these online. I have a fillable PDF I can give you as well, because nobody wants to print, or nobody has a printer, or if they do, it's broken.
Or they're out of ink. Right? There's a million excuses to not get it done.
So then I get it back, and I also tell them to take a photo of their ID card. I've already seen them. Now they just take an iPhone photo of their driver's license. All right, I match it all. They're usually like 18-year-old university people. there's not much you can do. But then I also get the parents' email address, like you say, a little bit of a threat for the guarantor.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, Dan Warren, jump in the comment section and share your experiences with guarantor forms, but it's really just, it's more of a safety blanket than it is a bulletproof shield to hide behind.
So you guys will know that I do like DocuSign for real estate. If you have some kind of a job where you need to do signatures all the time, get this.
How much does DocuSign
So I think it's like $200 annually.
So like if you have multiple actually there's no excuse for me not having DocuSign.
Because you guys don't know how much gas and time and random Tim Hortons meetings, like where Sally's late and
I don't know how many times I've sat in Tim Hortons waiting for
and
students.
then they have to take the physical, maybe they have to take the physical paper, we're going to read it over or something like that. And then 2 days later, the dad's calling you or something like that because he hasn't seen the property. But
Section 8, Article 3. What does that mean? And you're like, who reads the entire thing?
So basically, DocuSign, I can email it to 3 tenants, 3 parents, and everybody, once they're done signing, gets a PDF immediately. Because if you notice on most contracts, rental leases and even like real estate copies, you get a copy, it says immediately. But sometimes the person's like, okay, I gotta go back to the office and make a scan or fax, or even you as a landlord might have to go do that.
Yeah. As a landlord in Ontario, at least you're obligated to provide your tenant with a copy of the lease.
Now I'm sitting at home, my phone buzzes, the document's signed, it's saved in the cloud and everything like that. It's beautiful to send to the bank, good signatures. It has a really good tracking system of where it all came from, IP addresses and everything. And then they just e-transfer me all the money. So I literally sat on my couch and got all the deposits and like it was a little bit of filling out the form for me and just waiting for them to sign.
Yeah.
Hack.
And so one other tip I wanted to highlight is, so you've just rented out your 2 units right now, so it's mid-January.
Yes.
When does the lease start?
May 1st.
So like you need to be moving fast with student rentals. You want to get the more mature, the more organized.
That captain who's reaching out to you in January, pick up the phone with him.
Yeah,
because
they're way better than the captain in March or mid-April.
Being like, oh, hey, we should get a place for next year.
Yeah.
It's not always their fault. I've seen where like they've had 4s and then
people flake.
One guy flakes and then they're down to 3s and stuff like that. And I've also seen when it's too early, they start fighting in school, and by the time they get to your rental property, so like sometimes you can't win. But Matt's right. Ideally, the earlier the better.
Yeah, and so actually, I have 3 student rentals by Fanshawe. We have 2 of them rented out already, and we're hoping to get the 3rd one rented out in the next week or 2. Like usually, again, we're dealing with a May lease until April, and so we like to have our May leases locked in by the end of January, mid-February the latest. If we're not locked in by mid-February, we're starting to sweat a bit. And so I think that's a really big takeaway. In addition, I also just want to give a shout out to Dan Warren, who gave me the confidence. We raised our rents for our student rentals.
Nice.
We've been kind of sitting back a little bit, so making $30 more a month.
You're ruining it for everyone. You gotta.
What?
Like, Dan was always trying to do this, and then.
Hey, we came up a lot.
Okay, good. So.
And so that's what I just kind of.
What are you at now? $550.
We're at 5.25 on the Thurmans, and we're at $460 on the Flemings. A bedroom. So like that's definitely a big change. So when I originally bought on Thurman Circle back in 2010, we'd be renting out bedrooms for. It was either $450 or $475 a room. So it's slowly been.
When I first got, I was at $4.25.
Yeah.
And now those rooms are at $546.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
And that makes a big difference, right? And again, that's maybe one of the benefits of a student rental, particularly in a market that has the sort of rent controls we have in Ontario, where we don't have like pure rent control. We have like a once the tenant's in place, you can't increase the rents, or you can only increase it based on an indexed amount the government provides, and that amount is supposed to be pegged to inflation, but it rarely actually meets real inflation. It's more a government CPI type inflation. And so what's great about student rentals is you get a higher turnover, which comes with its own set of headaches, but it allows you to increase your rents to market rents on a much more regular basis.
Because 5 years ago, my phone's working, but if I would have had 4.25, and then times the provincial rent
you wouldn't be anywhere near.
I wouldn't be anywhere near that. I'd be at maybe like, what, 480 maybe or something?
Something like that.
All right. Give us the damage. What are we at?
The damage. We've got 21 viewers and 19 likes so far.
Appreciate that. But that means 2 of you at least could still smash that like button. So let's see 2 more smashes.
Right on.
And anybody making any specific comments in there?
We've got some questions. Yeah, Dan's in here. He's talking about getting some of these signs. Special thing.
Anyone looking for some money?
No one's making special comments that I've seen so far. So all right. I'll keep an eye open for.
Okay, well, text them on there and be like. Who's entered their email and then who's on the live show, because like one of the requirements was to come on the live show as well. So I need to know.
So yeah, make sure if you're what Jeff's kind of hinting at is if you're trying to get the $100 to your PayPal account, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. Otherwise, we don't know the information.
And I'm sorry if you've already done this, but we'll promote this more. If you're watching, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You got to go on Facebook. You got to like the post. You got to share the post. You got to click the link. Fill in your email address and then come back to the live show. And
it's just
I will send you $100 on your PayPal.
Boom. Potentially one person, not every
one
person.
guy. Yeah.
But yeah,
you guys want to jump into some questions?
Yeah, let's do a question.
I've got a couple, maybe 2 that are actually pretty similar. So Robert was asking, do you guys buy in LLCs? So maybe you can kind of clarify on that. And then also someone, do you guys flip under a corporation or do you own in your own name? And what's the tax implications to that?
Sure. So just discussing in general. Currently, I believe Jeff. Are they all personally, or do you have one?
Personal. Yeah. I have a corp.
But
I actually had an LLC at one point. I dropped it last May or something. And now
that was when you were selling bullwhips.
Yeah, I'm selling anything. Selling this pen. So.
But yeah, so the way I go about purchasing real estate, it's definitely something we've discussed a little bit before on the show, but it's a question that comes up all the time. Canada and the U.S. are 2 very different environments, both regulatory, tax related, as well as this is a real technical term, sue happiness. And so in Canada, there's a lot less risk involved with buying a property in your own personal name versus buying it in a corporation, where in the U.S. a lot of investors will really be focused on buying a corporation to try and mitigate their risks, or an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. And the reason for that is because just the legal environment allows for a lot more lawsuits, right? And again, it's going to depend on each specific state and the specific rules and regulations. But talking specifically about Canada, in general, for a lot of Canadians, I think it's a benefit to buy the first couple personally. And the logic behind that is simply there's less overhead, less hassle. And I've seen it happen again and again and again, where people think, boom, I'm going to become the next Grant Cardone. I'm going to build this massive portfolio. So I need to set up this whole complicated series of corporations to get the best tax strategy, the best all that. And then they get their first rental and they hate it. Mm-hmm. And then they walk away, and they've spent and invested all this money and time building up these very convoluted, complicated corporation structures that then actually still cost money to wind down and take effort to wind down. So my recommendation would be, for your first property, you don't need to get that complicated, at least in Canada. Maybe in the US, if you're really concerned about the legal liability, there's a separate reason why you'd want to approach it in a corporation or an LLC. But in Canada, I think a lot of first-time landlords are best served by not buying a corporation. Now, that being said, what do I personally do? I mainly buy personally or in my partner's names personally. However, I do buy in a corporation. The reason that we've started buying a corporation primarily is simply due to our lending laws in Canada. So the way our lending laws work is once you get around 5-10 properties personally, the 5 big banks in Canada, they're no longer really that interested in lending further to you. They don't want to give you more mortgages. But if you set up a new corporation, that corporation is treated as a separate legal entity. That corporation kind of is a blank slate. Now, you're still going to have to usually guarantee it personally, the corporation's mortgage. However, it's going to allow you to borrow more, get more mortgages, so you can, boom, Matt McKeever has 10 mortgages, no bank wants to lend to Matt McKeever anymore. Matt McKeever sets up Matt McKeever Inc. Matt McKeever Inc. can be lent to, and then Matt McKeever, the person, simply has to guarantee the mortgages that the corporation is pulling. So that's kind of a quick spiel on that. Otherwise, the question towards flipping, again, it's really going to come down to what's your goal. If you're approaching flipping and you're going to create a business and you're going to be flipping on a regular basis, absolutely it can make sense to buy in a corporation. However, if you're looking at like you're going to live in the property and you're going to do like a slow flip or a slow burr, again, that cost and that overhead and hassle of creating the corporation may be outweighed by the simplicity and the ease that you can simply go in and buy personally. And particularly if you're, let's say you don't own any properties right now yourself and you're going to buy property and you may flip it, but you're not positive what you're going to do. If you buy it in a corporation and then flip it, that's going to be taxed. That's definitely going to be taxed, and it's going to be taxed as active income. And in Canada, that's a less favorable rate than something like capital gains. Whereas if you bought personally and you weren't sure whether you're actually going to flip it or rent it out, and maybe you're going to live in it partially, in Canada, there's no capital gains on your primary residence when you sell it at a future date. So what we see a lot of people do is kind of, I'm not even sure if there's a real term for it. Is there a term for like flipping your own personal residence? Like I've never actually heard, you know, we have house hacking, we have rent hacking. Is there flip hacking or like primary residence flip hacking? I don't know.
No, I'll get back to you.
So yeah, so I don't know if there's like a term you can just Google, but the idea is a lot of people will buy a house that's maybe in poor shape, it's got deferred maintenance, it's dilapidated, whatever. It's not being used to its utmost. I see Steven's just cracking up. Someone's cracking him up.
Carlos is back.
How's the hair?
We're glad to see Jeff Weibel Hair Squad in the comments section. So the idea is they're going to buy this property and they're going to live in it and fix it up while they live there. Then when they sell it or flip it, as long as they didn't really have a business motive in mind when they did it, there's really not going to be any tax consequences because it was your primary residence. And so as that, you don't have to pay any capital gains, which is going to be huge for taxes.
Yeah, so yeah, it would just be flipping with principal residence.
Yeah, so I'm just looking for a catchy term. We need to make a catchy term for that.
Oh, so and I can add, if you buy personal and then you go to corp, you got to pay land transfer tax.
Sure, and
so
honestly, some people get
pre-flips.
Pardon?
You can call it pre-flips.
Pre-flips.
Principal residence exemption flips.
Yeah, okay, pre-flips. That's a term. You heard it here first.
Hashtag.
But yeah, Jeff does make a good point. If you did buy personally and then you want to bring it into a corporation in Ontario, you're going to be hit with land transfer tax. In Toronto, you get to double land transfer tax, twice the taxes. That sounds way more fun. But that's still, in my opinion, a small consideration usually. You know, if you're getting to the point where you really do, where you're treating this as, say, a full-time business, that to me isn't a major issue, but it is something to definitely be aware of. So hopefully those random ramblings helped.
Right on. We got a question from Jonas, who's a common questioner on here. They obviously saw your video this week, Matt. They want to know that bad tenant you had that wrecked your place. So what's the situation there? Do you get any money, any insurance?
So if you guys haven't seen, yesterday I put out like a little 3-4 minute video just showing a tenant had trashed my property. And I'd love to pretend that was make-believe. Just like she wrote all over my walls, is this make-believe or real? Unfortunately, it was real, all the writings on my wall. And
the writings on the wall?
Yeah, the writing on the wall was real, unfortunately. So it's one of those things, you know, theoretically, could I go to my insurance company and try and make a claim? Yes. However, at least historically, in my past, I found it more beneficial simply to suck it up, fix it up,
what's the
get rented out.
deductible anyways?
Well, and so yeah, and that's a great question. So usually, everyone's going to, a lot of people have a different perspective on insurance, but the way I approach insurance, it's really for like black swan events, critical failures, things that I really can't self-insure on. So my deductible is very high. I think it'd be $2,500, or we might even be $5,000. But anyways, it'd be at a level where it doesn't even make sense for me to really do that. In addition, it will slow down your process a bit. Depending on your insurance company, it might slow down your process a lot. Where I'd much rather get in there, just get it fixed, get it done, re-rent it out, rent it to a better tenant, move on, sort of thing. So appreciate all the love though in the comment section on that video. You guys have been very supportive, and it's been great that a few of you that have shared your experience as well. I think far too often people get worried about these worst case scenarios, and that video looked terrible. The property looked terrible, but the actual damage isn't that significant. It's just a lot of drywall patching, a lot of painting. Unfortunately, replacing all my pot lights because they stole them for some reason, and just double checking that all the electrical is still good and we're good to go. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. And that's why I'm able to laugh about it in the video, because I think far too often people take things personally. You know, even though that her trashing that property, a lot of people take that as a personal affront. It has nothing to do with Matt McKeever. She was trashing her landlord's property. And if you can kind of disengage emotionally from it, I think that you'll have a much funner experience being a landlord.
Right on. Couple commenters in the chat here, Jeff. Matt French, Kellen, Andrew Lindsay, all claiming that their $100 is theirs.
Which one? Who's
Kellen? Matt French. Who's Kellen?
Can you spell that?
Okay, Matt French.
Interesting question here from Tim Flesky. Wants to know, what are some tips on maximizing out an appraisal on a BRRRR?
Sure. So the best ways to maximize a BRRRR when you're coming up to the appraisal is, first of all, obviously make everything just look clean and tidy. Appraisers should be able to look past just dirt or clutter or a couple rough edges, but at the end of the day, they're humans, and so you just want to make their life as easy as possible. So make sure the property shows well, and make sure that you show up on time. So don't be late to your own appraisal. That's, again, a lot of these tips are very common sense. However, at the end of the day, people get caught up, they get busy, and they forget to do these things. So like some really easy ways to make sure your appraisal goes well is show up on time, be early, just be nice and talkative to the appraiser. But as far as like actual things you can do to try and get more value from your appraisal, I think adding laundry is huge, adding dishwashers, replacing countertops in the kitchen, and then just painting the cupboards. So usually if your boxes are solid, the actual like the cupboards themselves, if they're solid, just paint them a nice clean white or whatever. Paint them, okay, also for a BRRRR, don't let your personality get in the way of choosing colors and stuff. Like, you love neon green, that's cool. That appraiser probably doesn't. Make everything very simple, easy, very neutral, honestly. You want it to be able to, it appeals to anyone. And you may not fall in love with it, but just make it appeal to anyone. So I think that, you know, you have that kitchen that looks old, dated, whatever, paint it all white, paint it nice white, get a new countertop. A new countertop doesn't have to cost much, you know. And we're talking about like just a straight shot kitchen where it's just going to be one linear line. You know, if it's 8 feet, that countertop only has to probably cost you somewhere between $150 to $250, and it's going to look it's going to look brand new if you paint the cupboards pretty well. In addition to that, you know, either install it yourself, or it's not that expensive to get someone to install the countertop, or install the countertop appropriately. And then, yeah, laundry. So usually laundry you can install and have the units bought for somewhere between, say, $1,500 and $3,000. And that's not that expensive, but it's going to allow you to increase your rents. And so increasing your rents is a great way to increase the appraisal value on your BRRRR. And that's why I'm always talking about these strategic renovations. A dishwasher can be so cheap. A dishwasher, all you have to do, go buy a used dishwasher. You can even find used stainless steel dishwashers, usually in the $200 to $300 range, and buy used appliances, and buy used stainless steel appliances if you're trying to really max out the value on that appraisal. Again, that theoretically shouldn't overly impact the appraiser, but it's just going to look aesthetically much more higher end, and that's what you're kind of trying to go for. As well, you know, if you really want to game it, stage it. And what's kind of been your experience with?
And then the question was just like how to get the higher appraisal in general.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, another things you can do is like have your comps ready for the appraiser.
Yes, be prepared with that.
To show him that he might have 5 to do that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you potentially could just like, he might go do his own research, but if you've given it to him already, he's gonna like know to look at that one.
And cherry pick. Like, don't be afraid to cherry pick the ones that really fit the narrative you're trying to build.
And you know, you talk about like living space, like adding extra square footage if possible.
So yeah, that 3-season room becomes 4 seasons, and all you have to do is add a heat duct.
They want to see a heat source, right?
Yeah.
So if there might have been something there, you might want to, like an electric. You'd be like, we added this electric.
Yeah, like electric baseboards.
Like, it's not me talking. This is
Landlord Jeff
talking. Yeah, I did this table. It looks great, right? Maybe that table or the countertop was already there, right? So you did all the windows, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they were already there when you bought it, but you cleaned them up and you're like, new windows, right? So
yeah, and it's surprising the amount of value you can add to a property literally through cleaning, elbow grease, and paint.
So the staging is important, right?
Yeah.
So think of me as a realtor. I'm trying to sell a house. it's just a bunch of bones and stuff like that. But if it looks as nice as this office, everybody's gonna be like, wow, right? But if it's vacant, you don't kind of see the living.
Yeah.
And he won't be able to put a price on it because he might be a little, he might be. You might have asked for a price for the bank, and then for him to get there, he has to like, oh yeah, I can see a family paying $400 for this, right? So staging can help. So, and you can go get stuff off Kijiji, this and that. I'm sure guys under $500 you can quickly get some art, some tables, this and that, whatever, something, or do it professional if it's like a real flip or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say Matt French had kind of a follow-up question. He asked, is getting your own appraiser before approaching the bank before refi beneficial, or using the bank's appraiser?
The banks almost always go on use their
they
own
won't use
appraisal.
that guy.
So the only way that that's going to be different is if we're getting into commercial lending. So if we're talking about maybe a sixplex or larger, or something that has a commercial unit, often the bank then will allow you to hire your own appraisal, and that's a whole different ball game. But if we're talking a fourplex or smaller, you're definitely going to be using the bank's appraiser. So don't waste your money by getting your own appraisal done. Otherwise, if we're talking about a BRRRR and you're trying to maximize the appraisal value, make sure you give your tenants a hit up and explain to them why that's important. Like, explain to them, listen, there's an appraisal coming through. It's very important to me. Can you please just make sure the property is presentable? If they got a big dog, maybe the big dog can be in the backyard. And just like try and think through how the appraisal is going to go before you actually start the appraisal process, and then just again you want kind of like a Disney experience. You want it all on rails. You don't want any accidents, anything jumping.
I've been on
off
some
rails.
Train wrecks.
Yeah, right.
Can't get into doors. This and that.
Right. It's like all of a sudden, no, it's not a student rental, and then every bedroom door is locked. And it's like, well, that's not creating the narrative you just presented.
Yeah.
So make sure that the narrative you're presenting and the reality align with each other for the appraisal.
Right on. You guys want to move on?
Yeah, let's.
Which is bullshit though, because even like if it is a student rental, if you're renting under the lease under 5, and people want to lock their door, right? But
Right. Robert Morman wants to know, what do you guys think about using a business credit card for a down payment for a hard money loan?
Okay, so I think those are maybe two terms that are just kind of getting mildly mixed up there. But so as far as using a credit card for your down payment on a property purchase, there's a lot to be said about that. So there's definitely some gurus and coaches out there that will highly promote this. It's a very aggressive strategy. It's a strategy that almost any major bank is not going to be okay with. Now, there's certain ways that I've heard of real estate investors massaging it, where you get that credit card advance 90 days before, then you have the proof of funds that you can present to the bank, and as long as your total debt service ratio works still, the bank will they'll essentially allow that, right? Same with lines of credit. So what's weird is you can literally have a line of credit sitting there where you have access to $50,000 and zero money in the bank, or you could have $50,000 in the bank and a line of credit that's drawn by $50,000, and if it's been that way for 90 days, the bank will prefer the latter versus the former. So, it's strange, some of these games that real estate investors have to play, but definitely at the end of the day, just become very aware of the rules. Again, we're mainly talking our experience in Ontario, Canada. Your market, your region may be very different. In general though, if you present that option to a bank is going to say no. Now, if you're getting like a hard money loan on 80% of the property, and then you're going to use your 20% from a credit card as your down payment, as long as the hard money guy's cool with that, technically you're not doing anything wrong, although obviously you're taking on a very high risk approach to buying that property, simply because if you don't have the money for a down payment, then you have to borrow or get a credit card advance in order to get the down payment. It, to me, at first sounds like you're stretching yourself very thin. Now, that being said, a lot of people succeed by backing themselves into a corner. So I don't want to just out and out say that that's a bad idea. I just want to really point out that that's a very high risk strategy. So I think that you should be very aware of that. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. If you need clarity, jump in, let Adam know, and he'll do a follow-up question. So,
You guys ready for the next one?
yeah.
Scott wants to know, under the new real estate rules, are you required to have the full 20% down payment, or can you get away with less on a rental property?
Yeah, you can still get away with less if you're moving in.
Yeah, like if you're doing the primary residence and you're going to get mortgage insurance. So in Canada, what we're talking about is CMHC, Genworth, or there is a third one, but I always forget what they're called. And the US, we're talking about like an FHA loan. I know nothing about that other than that word. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, so in Canada, CMHC or Genworth, they're going to be fine doing a 10% down on a single family or duplex, and they're going to be fine 5% down, sorry.
5% down on single and duplex,
and
10 on
try and 4,
and then get into 20s.
And then there's a certain like cap out too, right? Like once you go over 500,000, over $1 million, things get a little bit more complicated. But let's say you're looking at that $400,000 fourplex, you're going to need to put 10% down.
Yeah.
So that's the main workaround. Otherwise, I'm constantly talking about like strategic partnerships. So for the people that, if you are an expert in your market, or you just know a fair bit about real estate, you maybe executed a few deals that went well, don't be afraid to start looking for partners. And honestly, start looking for partners before you need them. There's nothing worse than finding the perfect deal and then not having the money for it, and you stress yourself out. So start looking for partners before you need them, because when the opportunity presents itself, it's much better for you to be able to just pull the trigger and get that deal locked down as fast as possible. Because there's nothing worse than letting a great deal slip through your fingers simply because you didn't have the money.
Right on. Abdel wants to know, as a 19-year-old, who should I work with in real estate, or should I raise capital first? Pretty generic, but maybe some advice for young investors or aspiring investors.
So yeah, if we're taking the investor approach, I think that, again, it's going to depend on your skill set, right? Are you looking for a full-time job in real estate, or is this a side hustle of yours? If you're looking at this as a full-time job, I think becoming a realtor is an interesting approach.
Or just finding a mentor that's doing flips or something, or he's buying a lot, or like our meetup groups are really good. You're going to meet other people.
Start networking.
Pretty much. And you're going to learn and learn and learn.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can get money at the same time.
So for example, there's two younger guys that have started working on some of my projects, Michael and Adam, and essentially they were on the last limo tour.
Right. They went on one limo tour.
Yeah. And
okay, we just met them then.
Yeah.
And now?
And so now they're working on some of my project properties, and simply the way that all evolved was, they came on this limo tour, they were sponges, right? They were just absorbing everything they could, as well as they kept demonstrating their value by showing that like they work hard, that they've had an entrepreneurial background, that they're taking real estate seriously, and that they want to surround themselves with like-minded individuals. Yeah. And so, they reached out to me and said, is there any way we can help you? And we sat down, discussed things, and we figured out a win-win that was going to work for both of us, where, I was going to have people doing contracting work for me that I could trust, and they were going to be getting all this hands-on experience, and I simply said, as things evolve, I'll continue to open you up to my network, and honestly, I think that some of the most value I have these days is my network. So, yeah, so network.
And they were originally on the tour being like, oh, well, we can't afford that. And then I was like, you gotta go find somebody who can, and you're gonna be the expert. So now they're tailing you a bit and tailoring themselves to you.
Yeah.
And eventually they will find deals, and then they're gonna have these money partners, hopefully. And so they're grinding right now. They're young.
Yeah, they're grinding as contractors, but at the same time,
they meet up with us and audit us a bit too.
Yeah, it's been a fun relationship.
It's a little bit of a devil's advocate. It's not just like everything I say is amazing. So,
we didn't want yes men.
Yeah, so they fight back, and we're like, because right now we got them building a lot of stuff behind the scenes right now. So we'll
stay tuned for that.
Easy on that one.
But yeah, like they're working as contractors, but in addition to that, they're keeping their ears open, right? So they were demoing a property, throwing a bunch of garbage and former tenant belongings into a dumpster. And neighbors are walking by, and it's a problem property. You guys know I buy problem properties, and the neighbors are thanking them like, "Oh, thank God that someone's fixing up these problems or profits. You choose." And oh, thank God someone bought this property, they're fixing it up. This used to be a drug house, there used to be all these concerns and blah, blah, all these hassles with this property. It's too bad you also didn't buy that house 2 doors down. And, they could have simply said, yeah, and that could have been it. And they were like, what? tell us more about this property, right? And so now all of a sudden we have a wholesale lead simply because they were open to opportunities. So that's another big thing. Just because you decide that you want to become a flipper, don't get that tunnel vision and simply focus on flipping, especially at a young age like 19. Be open to the cornucopia of opportunities that are out there in real estate.
Right on. We got another question about a young, inspiring real estate investor. What is the best way to start doing real estate with only $13,000 in my account at the age of 18?
Have you heard of cryptocurrency?
It's not even about the money in your bank at this point. It'll be like, what's your full-time employment if you were trying to buy it personally right now? So the bank's going to want to see that every 2 weeks you have a paycheck. It's a full-time job. I know when I was that age, it was probably a part-time job. And they don't look at that very well. So that's very important. You could have $100,000 sitting in that bank right there. Well, unless you're buying an under $100,000 property.
Yeah.
With all the cash.
Sorry, what was the age again?
18.
18, yeah. So if you don't have full-time employment, that's definitely going to hinder you. But that being said, you could find someone that has strong employment. So maybe you have...
What's 5% of 13,000? I don't have my phone because it's on.
It'd be like whatever, 750 or something like that. 650, yeah.
650.
REIT?
Yeah. But so like you could also find a partner, right? And whether it's a money partner or a partner that has stronger income potential, right? So maybe you have a buddy that's 22 or 23 and they got their first time job and they're earning $40,000-$50,000 a year at that job. They're going to look as a much better lending risk from a bank's perspective than yourself if say you don't have an employment history as an 18-year-old with $13,000. Maybe your buddy that's working that full-time job also has $13,000. You guys put that money together and then go buy a property.
That's what I'm getting at. And then if somebody was moving in, it would be at 5%. I think you're qualifying somewhere around like $200,000 or $300,000 property, so somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And saying rent house, sublet rooms. Yeah.
Yeah. So like another alternative is like rent hack.
You can speak.
So like, and Michael Rosehart, who's a frequent guest on my channel as well as in the comment section, he constantly talks about rent hacking. Rent hacking simply is doing the exact same thing as house hacking, except for you don't own the house, you own the lease to the house. And so what you're going to do is find a 4 or 5 bedroom house, rent it out. So maybe you're going to rent out that property for, let's say, whatever, $1,500 plus utilities. Then what you do is you go and rent out those bedrooms for $400 or $500 each. You live in one of the bedrooms, you're going to live there for free. And who was it that just told me this the other day? Someone just told me that they were able to get a bank. I can't. Oh yeah, okay. Tom told me about this. So he was able to get the Bank of Nova Scotia to accept the fact that he was living with his brother, and so he had zero housing costs. So they were willing to adjust his debt service, like the room he had in his debt service and his total debt service ratio, based on that fact, which allowed him to actually be able to borrow more money than you would traditionally expect based on his income level. So don't be afraid to like sit down with that bank or mortgage broker and brainstorm with them and find out. Learn the rules. Honestly, if you're only depending upon the advice you hear from us in order to execute on these real estate deals, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Sit down with a local professional in your market, because again, if you're not in Ontario, Canada, you're going to be faced with a different regulatory environment, a different borrowing environment. So sit down with someone that's an expert in your region, in your market, and learn as much about the rules as possible. Don't be afraid to take notes. I remember the very first, I was scared to sit down with a banker and just be scribbling furiously because I thought I'd look unprofessional or unorganized. Don't worry about it, guys. Learn the rules and then play within the rules. You know, like, there's no sense trying to win a game of hockey if you don't understand the rules, right? If you don't understand offside, it's going to be difficult to win that game of hockey.
What inning are we in?
Right? Yeah. I don't even know what a touchdown, how many points that is.
Got a question early on from Tiffany. She wants to know what percentage of real estate investors are women in your opinion? I can imagine it must be a male dominated.
So like we don't have any facts on that. I would say like based on the London Fire meetup groups, there's I don't think that there's any sex, age, or race that particularly focuses on real estate investment in general. If you're looking for more female influences in real estate,
Nicole.
No, but I was thinking Mothers of Real Estate. Who was it that started that?
Monica.
Yeah. So
in Toronto area.
Yeah.
So Mothers of Real Estate, they have a show now. I
Yeah.
think it's on like cable television.
Yeah, it's on cable, but you can also find it on Facebook.
Yeah, probably maybe on YouTube, but
Yeah, I'm sure if you.
basically, yeah, they just pretty much talk real estate, and like you could do that in your local market too. So even in London on Fire, I think there's segues that the women are trying to get a little bit of like a wine club going and talking real estate.
Yeah,
so,
like Laura and Lara have started up. I forget what they call it, but I think they have their own name for it. But yeah,
Women of Real Estate or something.
yeah,
But yeah, so they're out there. Like even this Nicole girl I was talking about, she was on TV being interviewed and everything. She was doing offers with me like over $1 million, and she's just, it wasn't her money.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So I think that it's no one's limited when it comes to real estate investing whatsoever.
Exactly.
And you guys ready to move on?
Yeah, that's.
People want to know what the eviction process is like in Canada. Maybe you can walk them through that. You've got a great example.
Sure. I'll give you a high level approach. So in Ontario, Canada, each province is going to be different. Realize that. Same with each state's going to have their own rules around evictions as well. But simply, what's going to happen? Let's say and I guess too, there's a multitude of different ways to evict a person. First of all, my favorite type of eviction is not to evict. It's to get an N11 signed. And so an N11 is going to be a mutual release between yourself and the tenant. So literally before I ever get to the point of evicting a person, I'm almost always going to offer them an N11, see if we can split amicably. And ideally, that way they'll damage my property less. But let's say that you're going to evict a tenant for not paying rent. I think that's probably one of the more common things that we see and hear and get asked about. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill out that N4. Usually, I think you can do it by the 4th day of the month once they're late on rent. So January 1st comes, boom, they don't pay you rent, you can't do anything. By January 4th, you can file that N4. And so that N4, you fill out the form, take your time filling out the form. Do not mess it up because it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. So make sure you understand the form. If you don't understand the form, reach out to someone that does, or call there's like a hotline you can call to get help, or you can literally go to like the landlord tenant tribunal or whatever the office is called, and they'll also assist you, or at least give you some guiding principles to work within. But you're going to fill out that N4, you give it to them on say the 4th or 5th of the month, then fast forward, I think it's 14 days or maybe it's 10 business days, and then you can file the L1, I want to say it's called, maybe it's the L4, and then it's another form, and then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to get a date at the Landlord Tenant Tribunal here in Ontario, and simply what's going to happen is before you go to that meeting, you're going to want to kind of build up your case. So if you're evicting them simply for lack of payment, that's not going to be too hard. You're just going to say, look, they haven't paid me since this date. This is the amount of money they owe me. And then you're essentially going to be presented with two options. You can either meet with a mediator and try and work things out between yourself, the tenant, and the mediator will mediate, obviously. Otherwise, you can go into the hearing, in which case you're in front of I think it's called arbitrator. And then they're going to hear the case. The tenant will present their side of the story. You're going to present your side of the story. Again, read up on this. Don't go into your first hearing or tribunal meeting blind. Make sure you understand what to expect. One of the best ways to know what to expect is sit in on a few of them yourself and get some experience that way, just by seeing how other landlords kind of mess up the process. I know earlier this week was the Bigger Pockets meetup. And I was talking to John Kepler, who you guys remember, the Owen Sound landlord that's both been on. I guess we haven't released his On Fire podcast episode yet, but that'll be the next one as soon as Kellen does it, as soon as I can get Kellen in the file. And he's also been on the Cash Flow Go show with myself and Jeff. And so they frequently sit in on the Landlord Tenant Tribunal in Owen Sound. Even though they've been there a fair bit themselves, I think they're some of the most knowledgeable people I know about the process. But the reason is that they're sitting in every month when the tribunal happens in Owen Sound. So get experience doing it. And again, you can read all this on the Landlord Tenant Tribunal website or whatever it's called, probably a Province of Ontario website.
What a great way to meet disgruntled landlords.
Yeah, also, if you're looking for those wholesale leads, actually now, we need to set Michael and Adam on that.
Come on over here.
But yeah, that is an interesting approach to finding leads for wholesale deals or private deals yourself. So that's a great tip.
I suggest rapid fire right now.
Sure.
If we have
We got some lengthy questions.
We have,
Let's
like,
answer them as quick as we can.
yeah.
We're
Do
at
you know
6:25.
No,
so
and I need to know like, how many more people. I had Matt,
Well,
Kellen,
there's-
Tim, and Andrew.
there's a few others. As soon as we mentioned $100, everyone said I want
need their name. I'm
$100.
not in the chat.
We'll have to go back. Let's
Oh, well,
Okay.
in the
we'll go back
meantime,
through
smash
that.
that like button if you haven't
Yeah.
smashed it.
We're at actually 30 viewers right now and 39
Ooh,
likes
oh
so far.
shit!
So
Thank you guys.
things
That's
are
pretty
going well.
awesome.
Let's look at the $100 after the
Okay.
show, I
Okay.
guess. So marijuana will be legalized soon. Can landlords still legally restrict drug use on rentals, just like pets and smoking?
So at least based on my experience, you can't even restrict the use of drugs on your property. We've had problem tenants in the past, and where their roommates were wanting to file complaints, and the police would do nothing. So
I think if it's multifamily, I think the same rules for like the physical smoke will apply, or any like
so if you're on
discomfort.
forced air,
Okay, or any time one unit is pissing off another.
yeah. So that's an N5.
What you need to do is get the good tenant to help you get the bad tenant out. That's the only way you can do it. If it's a single family house, good luck. They can do whatever. They can have anything they want in there, pretty much.
Yeah. So again, it's something that I think a lot of us are still learning as well, right? You know,
all of Canada's gonna start learning that.
because like there's
like
no
on July 1st.
yeah, because there's literally no like case law
Yeah.
or past experiences that we can use as a basis for it. But I'm guessing you're maybe talking about actually growing it in the house. I think that's much more of a concern than users of it. Me personally, I wouldn't be concerned about a tenant using it in my house as long as it wasn't inhibiting the fair enjoyment or fair use by other tenants. But if they're growing it, then that can be a concern because are they ventilating it properly? Is your insurance company cool with this? And there's a whole host
Your
of other
electricity,
questions.
if you're paying for that.
If you're all inclusive, that's definitely a concern. But the same concern I think is also coming up with these crypto mining rigs that they suck a lot of power. And if you're doing an all-inclusive rental, I think that's very scary. I think what we're going to see is more and more landlords moving towards not all-inclusive rentals. More and more landlords going to rent plus utilities. It makes sense to me. They just want to mitigate the risk, mitigate their exposure, and mitigate the downside on the utility cost.
Cool. I got like 6 questions if we actually want to try and
Go,
do
sure.
it quickly. So, Matt, can you talk about tips on marketing your college rentals?
Yeah, so tips, Kijiji ads. And make them like millennial friendly. So you want bullet points, you want it easy to read on your cell phone. They're not reading it on their laptop often. You have to include your phone number. Yeah, it's shitty because you're going to get all kinds of weird people calling you and texting you, but you have to include it because a lot of millennials want to communicate through text. So that's the way it is.
My number's out there everywhere because I'm a realtor. It's not that bad, honestly.
Sometimes.
I don't get like sometimes I win $1 million from Africa or something like that. But, you know.
I don't even know what you're doing here then.
Yeah, I didn't collect it.
But then also Jeff had mentioned off-house camping. What the words?
Off-campus housing.
Right.
You know there's words.
And like good photos, like if you have them from one of the good years,
Yeah.
you can kind of put them up again. that
I
kind of
also
stuff.
love using layouts. So print a layout. Jeff already talked about doing the video. The video is amazing. That's a great idea. In addition, now Facebook groups. You need to get into those student Facebook groups and start advertising there. They're so huge, as well as there's different in each city now. There's like lots of Facebook groups that are just oriented towards rental properties. So you need to be there. As
Facebook
well.
target market around the college.
That'd be interesting.
as well.
Yeah.
Or anybody that talked about Fanshawe College, or anybody that you go through Facebook, you can really target the ad to somebody that went there.
Yeah, and otherwise, paying for that promoted ad on Kijiji's very smart. Dan Warren does it, and he's able to rent those properties very fast. Again, it's a lot nicer. You can absorb a lot of these hassles and costs if you have multiple student rentals. That's why I'm constantly talking about, I don't like the idea of owning one student rental. I like the idea of either owning a bunch or none. Because with one, I think you get all the headaches that come with student rentals, but not nearly as many of the benefits, and you're much more exposed to the risk of, if you have one bad group of tenants, that they destroy your property, and that destroys your entire asset and income base.
And quickly, I have a tenant looking for me right now because he needs a roommate. So he's the one actively looking.
Yeah.
He's the one putting up the ads. He's the one doing the showings. And I'm like, all right, well, if he wants to live with you, I'll approve that guy.
And just one thing before I forget, Carlos, you need to step up his Instagram hair account, or I'm going to start a competing account. Just throwing it out there.
He wants Jeff to take more close-ups of his hair and stuff. That's what he's already said that today. Turning Toronto wants to know tips on and advice on raising rents for commercial and residential properties that haven't seen increases in a few years. So there's rules for all this stuff.
Yeah, so you simply can't raise them for residential beyond what's stated.
1.8%.
I think this year, right? So otherwise, when they move out, then fix it up, paint it up, and jack up the rents. For commercial units, you essentially have carte blanche. It's much more contract oriented. So the way that's going to work is once that lease is up, you can pretty much do whatever you want as long as there's not like an extension period or some sort of thing where they have the right for the next 5 years to continue on the same
1 minute on
basis.
Instagram.
So,
Instagram's going to take off.
Steve B wants to know, would you consider accepting bitcoins from tenants?
Very interesting.
Jeff's about to accept Bitcoin for the Live Limo Tour.
Oh,
so that being said, I certainly wouldn't want a significant portion of my rents coming to me via cryptocurrency because to me there'd be a novelty in it. I'd probably accept it from one tenant on even on a regular basis, but that's simply for the novelty. From a business perspective, I don't think it's a good idea. You're getting into a whole different sphere now, right?
Yeah, and they're not paying you. They're paying you a fluctuating.
Yeah. And so, like, what it comes down to is, like, you're in the business of being a landlord of providing shelter. And now what you're talking about is speculating on cryptocurrencies, right? So I don't think it makes sense. So, yeah, like...
What if the Canadian dollar falls and then they're still paying you X dollar?
Yeah, well, like, any currency has volatility. It's simply that most fiat currencies from Western democracies have significantly less volatility than any cryptocurrency we've seen to date.
Okay, so another question here. Considering the prices in Toronto, what would you suggest for a beginner buying a condo, renting and flipping, renovating?
I would recommend renting. Honestly, like, especially if you're talking downtown Toronto or anywhere almost in the greater Toronto area, most landlords are subsidizing their tenants' lifestyle.
And we talk about the 4-hour drive, right? So rent in Toronto.
Yeah.
And then go buy somewhere else. And make the money that we're making in our city and use it to help you pay that rent. That rent, like, it's $1,000.
Yeah, like if you're in Toronto, like you don't even have to drive that far necessarily, but I've heard great things about, Oshawa, Durham area, Hamilton, Burlington, Brantford, and then if you come further down the 401, you got, Woodstock, London, 402, Sarnia, you got Strathroy on the 402, and then going further along the 401, you got Chatham, Windsor, and especially if we ever, ask Kellen to drive you to London, he'll get you to Chatham, no problem. But beyond that, if we ever do get this high-speed rail connecting Windsor to Toronto, in my opinion, like that's going, the 401 corridor is just going to be completely different. I'm salivating right now just thinking about it.
Sure. All right, Super Male Vitality wants to know, is a high-interest savings account the best way to save for a down payment?
That's a good question. I think it kind of depends on your time horizon. So if your time horizon is short, I'm going to define short as say 90 days or less. I think that's a great option. If your time horizon is more medium, I'm going to define medium as 6 months to a year. I think that that's a fair option, but I could also understand if you decided that you wanted to invest in something that maybe was going to produce a little bit more return. If you're talking about time horizon over 1 year, I think that there's a lot of options and opportunities. Alternatively, if you're looking for some other options, hard money lending could be interesting if you're looking to get a much better return. Obviously, usually in any investment, the higher the return, the higher the risk, so just become aware of that. But yeah, I think if you're talking about a short to medium term, high interest savings, because again, you're in the business of becoming a landlord of buying real estate, not of speculating on returns from more aggressive investments or the stock market or cryptocurrencies.
Good tip.
Right on. Okay, so this is going to be the last question. It's from Matt Gertz. I'm starting to build some momentum with raising capital. What are your top couple of tips for introducing and closing to raise money?
Obviously,
have the deal, I think. If you have the deal, then they're going to love using your money, or their money, right?
I would say use the dentist system. Demonstrate value. If you guys are, it's always Sunny fans, you got that. But seriously, demonstrate value by, being prepared, be able to show what you've accomplished to date.
Your portfolio.
Then, right? And so like literally, put together a booklet and
I
then
got a
breaks
place
out.
in Glencoe, It's,
Yeah. I got this place in Glencoe. Glencoe's about to pop. You just don't know it yet. But yeah, no, I think that having a package together that you can present to investors is really important. Beyond that, you do need to position yourself in a way where you're going to feel confident during the meeting, right? So dress in a professional manner, but dress in a manner that you feel comfortable in. So if you've never worn a tuxedo before, I don't think you should show up in tuxedo because you're going to feel awkward.
5 minutes,
or if you wake up looking like this, then that's fine.
If you had the deal too, and
yes.
lots of private deals that you're presenting to the person with all the money, he's gonna salivate at it as well.
Mhm.
Don't put the address on it. Put all the units. Put the money.
Yeah.
Look, do you like this?
And a lot of real estate gurus talk about this, that money is a lot easier to come by than deals.
Yeah.
So if you got the deal, you'll get the money often. But that being said, I did tell you earlier in the show to always be networking and build up that network so that when you do find the right deal, you can slot together the right money partner. But yeah, I think literally just having a portfolio, something to kind of prove your status as a landlord. And so what Matt's done, which I think was really clever, was when he bought that property in Glencoe that we were kind of teasing him about earlier, he got in the paper for Glencoe or whatever the small town is where the Glencoe shares the newspaper for. But that immediately creates a certain level of credentials, right? It creates a certain level of social proof to whoever you're presenting to, right? And so create that social proof, demonstrate your value. So don't be afraid to, Canadian Real Estate Wealth Magazine. My understanding is it's relatively easy to get an article in that magazine. So get an article in that magazine. Also, we need to get articles in that magazine.
And when we're at Rain, we'll bug them to get in their magazine as well.
Yeah, and so try and position yourself as an expert, right? People like trusting experts, and that's why so many experts, so many industries end up creating these credentials because it's a short form to create that social proof, to create that I'm an expert.
I was the top agent in this office this day wearing a tuxedo, actually.
I knew that.
Yeah,
I saw the award in
yeah.
your office. Yeah. So hopefully that answered your question, Matt. Appreciate you jumping in the comment section. Everyone that hasn't, smash that like button. Are we going to do something here?
Shoot me all the names, and I have a plan.
I can't. There's too many to go through, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
I'm not looking at it.
So are we going to do an update video shortly after this, or what's going on?
Well, I probably want to do it live because what I was looking for was a little bit of a list. I have all my subs here. Let's refresh.
All right.
Andrew, Sam, Willie, there's over 14 of them.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate.
Sorry, give me the numbers.
Or give me the names again.
Well, they don't all have to.
Matt, French, Kellen, Tim, Andrew, right?
Yeah, Sam, Willie.
Sam Wiley, yeah.
Hey,
Sam.
Swag Money.
Oh, and I want to give a shout out to my buddy in Afghanistan right now who watches our show.
Oh, cool! I didn't know
won't say
that.
his
That's
names,
awesome.
but
Appreciate
he's
that.
undercover.
Cool. So I don't. Do you want to just go off screen because this is weird? Just literally people watching and list of names being read off to them. I don't know if that's the best entertainment.
Okay.
And otherwise, I can.
What do you want me to do?
Go
okay.
and I'll keep talking about other stuff. That way,
Keep him
yes,
busy.
I'm going to try at least. So, in case you have no idea why the show is running off the rails right now, me and Jeff decided to start a new interesting marketing campaign, I'm going to call it. So what we did was, Jeff simply set up a Facebook post, a non-sponsored Facebook post that said, do these 4 steps, and if you do these 4 steps, then you're going to have the opportunity to potentially win $100 to your PayPal account. And so the idea behind this was it's a way for us to experiment with email capture. So we're brand new to this idea of building any of these systems. So we just like to take random experiments, see what happens, and then hope for the best. So that's what this is all about. It's the same reason we ended up starting the Cash Flow to Go show. We really didn't know if there's going to be enough of you that would join in every week and ask us questions, smash the like button, do all that great stuff. There has been, and that's amazing, and we do really appreciate it. And see how much faster that worked the moment you got on there.
Well, mostly.
Mostly. So now you're just going to go to the random number generator?
Yeah, I'm going to go random number generator.
There's one more.
Okay, sure.
And those of you that are really hardcore computer science guys will say there's no such thing as a true, purely random number generator. And until we get quantum computing, I have to agree with you.
Okay. What's the one more?
Tyreek.
Ty?
Yeah.
R something?
It's Tyreek.
Okay.
GF.
And welcome to the Name Spelling Podcast.
Well, okay, so after I do this, so I'm going to randomly number generator. We have 9 names here. So, Vin, lean over and hit this generator. You know how to work a Mac?
Over here.
All right, 1 to 9. Hold on, wait, before you do it. So it's 1 is
Show it to camera.
Matt, French, Kellen, Tim, Andrew, Sam, Bill, Dan, Abdel, Tyreek. That goes 1 to 9.
Ready?
Yeah, go.
Don't do it.
7 is Dan Warren.
Dan Warren.
The man that needed it. We knew that Dan needed this $100, and all we can say
Dan
is
hasn't
thank
worked
God he
the
got
job
$100.
in a million years. Congrats, Dan Warren, $100. Thank you for watching the Cash Flow Go show.
We do appreciate it. And so otherwise, hopefully we'll see you next week if you're in the Windsor area at our Cash Flow Go Windsor meetup. If you're in the GTA the week after on the 31st, hopefully we'll see you there. Join the Facebook groups for the Cash Flow Go show if you want to find out more about the meetups. And London on Fire is next Thursday as well, so I look forward to meeting up with you guys. I'll have a bunch of different copies of the ERE book at each of these meetups, so hit me up if you want one.
Yep. And watch us online. If you're not coming to Weibo Limo Tour, we'll be all over that.
Yeah. So that's this Sunday between noon and 4.
Yeah, so noon and 4 if you're sitting at home, and if you're there, we'll see you there. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good Friday. Bye.